Alright guys, this is Ms. Richards. We are looking at the Unit 4A test review. Okay, number 1 says you are to factor. We've got 3x squared plus 12x. So between 3x squared and 12x, what do they have in common? Well, we can divide a 3 from both of these, so we can take out a 3. This has an x squared, this has an x. They both have at least an x. So we can factor out a 3x. When you factor out a 3x from 3x squared, you're left with x. When you factor out a 3x from 12x, you're left with just a 4. So your answer for number 1 was 3x times x plus 4, and that was answer choice C. Okay, question 2 is another factoring question. We've got 4x squared. Let me move the camera, sorry about that. 4x squared minus 81. Okay, so you have to figure out, okay, is there a GCF? Well, 4 fits into 4, but 4 does not fit into 81. 2 fits into 4, 2 does not fit into 81. All the factors of 4 are 1, 2, and 4. So we can't factor out a GCF, but I want you to notice, is this a difference? Is this a difference of 2 squares? The answer is yes. 4 is a perfect square. X squared is a perfect square, so is 81. So we're going to have 2 sets of parentheses. You have a plus and a minus. The square root of 4x squared is 2x. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. The square root of 81 is 9. So you have 2x plus 9 and 2x minus 9. That is answer choice D. Number 3. We've got 9x, we're supposed to factor this, 9x squared minus 16. Again, see if you can factor out a GCF. The factors of 9 are 1, 9, and 3. None of those fit into 16 evenly. So then we need to see, is this a difference of 2 perfect squares? And it is. So set up your 2 parentheses. One has a plus, one has a minus. The square root of 9x squared is 3x. So that goes here, that goes here. The square root of 16 is 4. So you have 3x plus 4 times 3x minus 4. And that is answer choice B on the review. Okay, number 4. We've got a factor, x squared minus 13x plus 36. Okay, so this is a trinomial where a is 1, so there's not going to be a GCF. They don't all have something in common. So we need to come up with the factors of 36 that add to negative 13. If they add to negative 13, that's a hint. Both will be negative. Both will be negative. So if you go to your table and you're trying to find your factors of 36, go hit 36 divided by x. So we've got negative 1, negative 36, negative 2, negative 18, negative 3, negative 12, negative 4, negative 9, And then you should have -6 and -6. Those multiply to 36. Let's see which ones add to give us a -13. It looks like -4 plus -9 will give us a -13 if we add them together. So set up two parentheses. You got x squared from multiplying x times x. And we got -13 and 36 from a -4 and a -9. This is answer choice D. Okay, number 5. Let me move this down. Number 5 says we've got n squared plus 25n plus 84. So you need to come up with the factors of 84 that add to 25, and everything's going to be positive here. So go to the table. We're going to do 84 divided by x. We can start at 1. So we got 1 times 84, 2 times 42. So 1 and 84, 2 and 42, 3 and 28. We keep going down. You get 4 and 21. Sorry, 4 and 21. Looks like those add to 25, right? That's what we need. So we have two sets of parentheses. We got n squared from multiplying n times n, and then our two numbers were a +4 and a +21. This was answer choice A on the review. Okay. And you'll notice you don't have a ton of space on your actual review. So to work this stuff out, you're going to need paper. All right, so we just finished number 5. We're on number 6. It says factor x squared minus x minus 6. Okay, so we're coming up with factors of -6 that are going to add to give us a -1. That's really a -1 right there. So we've got 1 and -6, -1 and +6, 2 and -3, or -2 and +3. Which ones add to a -1? That's right, 2 and -3, +2 and -3. So you get two parentheses. You got x squared from multiplying x times x, and you had a +2 and a -3. That was answer choice A. All right, number 7. We have to factor 2x squared plus 14x plus 24. Now, if you'll notice, the coefficient here is not 1, so you need to check for GCF. Well, 2, can we divide out a 2 from everything here? The answer is yes. So when we take out a 2, we are left with x squared plus 7x and then plus 12. So now we just need to come up with the factors of 12 that add to 7. You have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. It looks like 3 and 4 add to 7. So that's a +3 and a +4. You still have the 2 on the outside. Set up two parentheses. You got x squared from multiplying x times x, excuse me, and then you had a +3 and a +4. So that was number 7. So that was answer choice D for number 7. Number 8, we've got to factor 2n squared minus 15n minus 27. Okay, so let's check for GCF. It doesn't look like 2. We can divide these numbers by 2, so there's no GCF. This means this is a slide and divide question. First thing you do when you slide and divide is you slide the 2 over, and you're going to do 2 times negative 27, which is 54. So we get n squared minus 15n minus 54. So now you have to come up with factors of negative 54 that add to a negative 15. So if you go to your table, do 54 divided by x, your factors. Of course, you've got 1 and 54. You've got 2 and 27. You've got 3 and 18. We've got 6 and 9. And that seems to be about it. Okay, so which combination? So one of these is going to have to be negative. In order for it to multiply to negative 54, one number has to be negative. It's not going to be these. 2 and 27, we can't make 15 out of that. What about 3 and 18? What is 18 minus 3? That's right. That would be 15, and that is what we are looking for. So which combination of positives and negatives do we need? Well, we need the 18 to be negative and the 3 to be positive. When we add those together, we get a negative 15. So set up 2 parentheses. You got n squared by multiplying n times n, and our two numbers were a positive 3 and a negative 18. So we did the slide part, we did the factor part, now we need to divide. What did we slide over? The 2. So we're going to divide by that 2. If it doesn't divide evenly, bottoms up. 3 divided by 2 does not divide evenly. So this 2 is now going to become, it's going to be in front of the n. So you've got 2n plus 3. And then 18 divided by 2 is 9. So that is going to be n minus 9. Final answer, 2n plus 3. 2n plus 3 times n minus 9, and that is answer choice C. All right, number 9. You've got to factor 3x squared plus 2x minus 16. There is no GCF. You look at it and you can tell, like, we can't divide everything by 3, we can't divide everything by 2, we can't divide everything by 16. There is no GCF here, so you have to use slide and divide. So we're going to slide the 3 over, so we get x squared plus 2x, and then 3 times negative 16 would be negative 48. You're going to find your factors of negative 48 that add to a 2. So let's go to our table. We've got negative 48 divided by x. Those factors, I started my table at 17, so hold on. Of course, you've got your 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12, 6 and 8, and that's about it. So it looks like one of your numbers has got to be negative. So if we had a negative 6 and a positive 8, switch it around and say 8 minus 6, that equals a positive 2, right? That's what we want. So how did you get x squared? You multiplied x times x. And then our two numbers were negative 6 and positive 8. Now we're going to go back and divide by our a, what we slid over, which is 3. So divide by 3, divide by 3. x minus 6/3, well, 6 divided by 3 is just 2, so that's x minus 2. And then 8/3, that doesn't divide evenly, so we're going to bottoms up, bring the bottom part of that fraction up in front of the x. So that is now 3x plus 8. Final answer, x minus 2 times 3x plus 8. That's number 9. That should have been answer choice D. I think they're switched around, but that's okay. It's answer choice D. All right, number 10. Number 10 says we've got to factor 2v squared minus 7v plus 5. Okay. Again, check for GCF. There is not a GCF, so we're going to have to slide and divide. So we're going to slide the 2 over. You get v squared minus 7v plus 10. So you're coming up with the factors of 10. Because this b is negative, both factors have to be negative. So let's see, -1, -10, -2, -5. Oh, if we add those, we get a -7, and that's what we want. So we're going to have 2 parentheses. We got v squared for multiplying v times v. And then our 2 numbers were -2 and -5. Now that we slide and then we factored, we still have to divide. The method is called slide and divide. So don't forget the divide part. 2 divided by 2 is just 1, so that's v minus 1. 5/2 doesn't reduce, doesn't divide, so bottoms up, bring the bottom part of that fraction up in front of the v, so that's 2v minus 5. Final answer, v minus 1 times 2v minus 5. And that was answer choice A. Okay, and then if we turn the page, number 11 says, given the equation y equals 3x squared minus 2x plus 4, what would change in the appearance of the graph if the 3 is changed to a 1/3. Okay, so if we take that 3 and we change it to a 1/3, what happens? Okay, so let's look at this in Desmos and see what happens. So go to your Desmos. See if I can pull it up quickly. Sometimes my computer doesn't want to cooperate. Here's Desmos. So if we type that in, I'm gonna exit out. Our original is 3x squared minus 2x plus 4. Okay, so if I zoom out, so that's the first one. What if I change it to 1 divided by 3? So 1 divided by 3 x squared minus 2x plus 4. Okay. So it looks like we are going from the red graph to the blue graph. What happened? Okay, so the red graph is really skinny. And like that's what we call a vertical stretch. So think about stretching a rubber band when that number is big, when A is a bigger number. When you change it to be a number between 0 and 1, that makes the graph wider. That's a vertical shrink, okay? So it makes the graph wider. So the answer choice, the best answer would be answer choice A. Let me see where I'm at. Answer choice A. And A says the graph will be wider. But remember, if it's a stretch, if it's above 1, if it's a shrink, if it's between 0 and 1, like 1/3. Okay, and I give you study sheets about that. Okay, number 12 says, given the polynomial x squared plus 6x, what is the C term? Let me move this. Well, A is 1, B is 6. If you don't see a C, if you don't see a constant, C is just 0, and that's your answer. So number 12, the answer was answer choice C. Number 13. What transformations are happening to this graph? Y equals -2 times x plus 3 squared. Well, there's 3. There's the negative, there's the 2, and there's the plus 3. Okay, so the negative is going to be a reflection over the x-axis. That's what this negative does. Okay, the 2 is a vertical stretch by a factor of 2. And then this plus 3 is going to be a horizontal shift right, no, it's left because it's plus, sorry, left 3. So that was answer choice A. All right, and then 14, you're given this graph, and you have to answer questions about it. So the vertex is this point here, and this point is at 0, -2. The zeros are going to be where the graph crosses the x-axis. That's at -2 and +2, but you have to write them as points. So -2, 0, and 2, 0. The y-intercept is the same thing as your vertex. So that would be 0, -2. The axis of symmetry is going to be the x-coordinate of your vertex, which is 0. So that is just x equals 0. Okay. So if you had to do intervals of increase and decrease, this would be your decrease interval, this would be your increase interval. Of course, 0 is your axis of symmetry. Over here is -infinity, over here is infinity. So that's our decrease side, that's our increase side. So the decrease interval would be -infinity to 0. The increase interval would be 0 to infinity if you had those questions.
I need the following students to attendance for checkout. Max and Asha Martno, Joey Gutman.
Sorry about the interruption. The domain's always all real numbers, -infinity to infinity. You might see it in interval notation. You might see it in set notation, which is this. It's just saying your domain is between -infinity and infinity. The range, you read the graph from bottom to top, so we are starting at -2 and going up. So interval notation would be -2 to infinity. And then you've got a few other options. So your y is between -2 and infinity, or y is greater than or equal to 2. So any of those. Sorry, that's an infinity. Average rate of change. Okay, this is what a lot of people have had questions about. So you're going to have to look at your graph very carefully. See when the x is 1. When x is 1, what's my y? Looks like it's halfway between -1 and -2. So when x is 1, it's -1.5 for the y. That's our first point. When x is 2, this point, y is 0. So you have these 2 points, and you have to come up with the average rate of change. So you have to use the slope formula. So I'm going to do this on a piece of paper. So once you get your 2 points, so we've got 1, -1.5, and we've got 2, 0. Those are our points. I'm going to write them out differently. So we have x1 and y1, x2 and y2. You're going to plug this into the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Plug them into that formula. You have 0 minus a -1.5 divided by 2 minus 1. So these become a big plus. So 0 plus 1.5 is just 1.5. And then we've got 2 minus 1, which is just 1. So 1.5 divided by 1 is just 1.5. So your average rate of change is just 1.5. Which table best represents the graph above? Well, that's going to be graph C. And you can see that we've got the vertex is at 0, -2. We've got the points. We've got the points -2, 0, and 2, 0. We just need to check and see if we've got these points. 4, 6, let's see. 4, 6, yep. And then -4, 6. -4, 6, yep, we have those points as well. So this table, just make sure those points match the points on the graph. So that would be C. Okay, that is all for the study guide. Again, watch this video if you haven't, watch this video again if you missed something, and check your answer key. I will have an answer key posted online, and I have an answer key posted on the board in class. Have a great day.